Beyond belief. Fact or fiction? Hosted by Jonathan Frakes. Tonight, your challenge is to separate what is true from what is false. 5 stories, some real, some fake. Can you judge which are fact and which are fiction? To find out, you must enter a world of both truth and deception. A world that is beyond belief.
An interesting lesson in perspective. Take a look at the normal-looking man in the background and the miniature, childlike figure in the foreground. Is it possible they're really the same size? It's not only possible, it's an absolute fact. But sometimes, facts can appear to be falsehoods, and vice versa. So will you be able to determine which of our stories are true and which are false? We'll tell you which are which at the end of the show. And remember, it's not an easy challenge. But then again, that's where we separate the men from the boys. There are few things as beautiful as the glow of a candle. The warm glimmer of light. It's come to symbolize everything from religion to romance. The late mother of Caitlin Woods designed this particular piece of sculpture. She was a talented woman who passed on to her daughter an artistic soul and a house full of problems. But the candle that lights Caitlin's spirit refuses to go out.
I was away at college studying criminology when my father was a victim of a home invasion robbery. When he tried to stop the thief, he suffered a massive stroke. How you doing, Daddy? You want some more?
No, it's enough.
Okay. Many months passed and my father's speech returned, but the left side of his body remained paralyzed. My mom had passed away years earlier, so I moved back to help with my dad.
It's not right. You shouldn't be my nurse. You have a life you should be living in.
Daddy, we've been over this again and again. Would you just stop it? This is where I'm supposed to be right now. My father had no insurance and no money in the bank. There was no way he could afford the care he needed. I was all he had in the world, and I was determined not to let him down. My mom was a wonderful artist. She always made beautiful gifts for me when I was growing up. Our home was filled with her creations, especially the beautiful things she did with candles. There was one that had an inscription on the holder. When you need to light your way, remember my love and let it sparkle for you that day. That was my favorite, but it was gone. The thief had stolen it the night of the robbery.
Caitlin?
I'll be right there, Daddy. I took my dad out for a walk almost every day after lunch. It made him feel less like a prisoner, and it took my mind off our financial situation. Our funds were running low, and I didn't know how much longer I could take care of my father without getting a job. Remember this place, Daddy?
The first time your mom and I took you in there, you were 2 years old.
Look at that. It hasn't changed one bit. Best mile high cake I ever had. You want some? Hey!
Are you okay?
Please watch my father.
Caitlin, what are you doing? Caitlin!
Something strange came over me. Something that made me throw all caution to the wind. An invisible power seemed to be forcing me to follow him. know how the fire started, but it made the thief run away. I was too weak to get up. I thought I would die. But then the fire went out all by itself. And then I saw it. It was the candle that had been stolen from our home the night my father had the stroke.
Thank God you're all right.
I'm so sorry, Dad.
Don't ever do that again, Caitlin.
Look what I found.
It's the candle your mother made you.
Yeah, the junkie who stole my purse must have been the same guy who robbed the house.
Caitlin, I'm so sorry.
Daddy, it's okay.
Couldn't hold it.
What's this?
Oh, no.
Daddy, it's a diamond necklace.
So that's where she put it.
What?
This necklace belonged to your grandmother. Your mother was going to surprise you with it on your birthday. She never did tell me where she hid it.
Sounds just like Mom.
I searched everywhere for this necklace. I never did find it.
Now I understand what Mom's words meant. When you need to light your way, remember my love and let it sparkle for you that day. I had the necklace appraised, and we were shocked to find out it was worth almost $100,000. The necklace made it possible to hire qualified help to look after my father. He continued to recover, and with his therapy, he's now almost back to normal. And I was able to go back to school and finish my law enforcement degree. My mother's candle did light the way.
What's at play here? It's of course possible that the same person who robbed Caitlin's father also stole her candle. But who lit the candle during the struggle? And why did the fire that saved Caitlin's life go out so quickly? Was it a sudden gust of wind? Or the spirit of Caitlin's mother watching over her? Does this story seem to be the result of calm, reasoned, factual research? Or is it the product of devious writers who are burning the candle at both ends?
We'll find out if this story is true or false at the end of our show. Next, a detective encounters the strangest witness of his life on Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction.
Nature has provided flowers with many attributes. Their beautiful appearance, their fragrant smell, their delicate feel. And nothing adds to our sense of well-being more than a perfectly placed flower arrangement. Detective Russ Parker is not a man who fusses over petunias. He's a hardened veteran of the force whose only use for a flower is to hide a wiretap inside. But he's just been called to investigate a death in a flower shop, and there's a familiar fragrance in the air. The scent of murder.
I'd been working the murder beat in Tacoma for the past 15 years.
Step back, folks. Watch the tape.
Thought I'd seen just about everything, but the homicide at Saito's Garden Works turned out to be the strangest one yet. What do we got?
Male, Asian, about 60 years old, owns a shop, and got no witnesses.
My partner, Dean Santoni, came over to homicide after only a couple of years with the department. He had a college degree, something I didn't have. He also had wild ideas, but I liked them.
Oh, man, I just remembered.
What's that?
Oh, I gotta get my wife some flowers. It's our anniversary tomorrow.
Oh, congratulations. There he is. His nephew found him like this morning when he came in for work.
Any calling cards here, Bernie?
Well, the hose is clean. In fact, the whole scene is clean.
Yeah, the killer was probably wearing gloves.
No kidding. You learned that in college?
The guy put up quite a struggle. Whoever did it finally finished him with a garden hose. Crushed his windpipe. The cash register was open. All the money was gone.
So we got a robbery that got out of hand. I'm not surprised. This whole neighborhood's gone downhill. For the transients, it's a shame. Used to be a decent place to live. Not anymore. Who'd you say found him?
His nephew. Yeah, he's pretty shook up.
It's so horrible. I loved my uncle. He was like a second father to me. He took me in and he taught me the business.
Did he have any enemies?
Everyone loved him.
Everybody except the killer. Listen, if you can think of anything that might help, give us a call.
Thanks. We're, sorry for your loss.
I'm done here. You can take him whenever you're ready. No suspects, no witnesses, no prints. All right, let's round up some of the transits. We'll see if any of them have upped their standard of living.
I have a better idea. Why don't we put together a lineup?
Lineup? How do we have a lineup if we don't have any witnesses?
The plants were here.
The plants?
Yeah. When I was in college, I took a biology class with a professor named Comstock. Now, he was, well, he was a little out there, but he had this theory that plants have the same emotions and reactions that we do.
Where are you going with this?
I know it sounds crazy, but Comstock hooked up a plant to a polygraph machine and exposed it to all kinds of different violent acts, like boiling a lobster alive. The needles went nuts. I saw it myself. The plant felt the lobster's pain.
You're kidding me, right? You're telling me these plants know we're talking about them right now?
All I know is what I saw. And the experiments worked. Look, we got nothing to lose, Russ.
My rights are being violated. I want to see a lawyer.
Shut up and say your name.
It's Ray Dietz, and I didn't do nothing.
Have him approach the plant. Walk up to the table and give us 2 profiles.
All right, get back in line. Next man, same routine.
It was no surprise to me that the professor's theory was coming up empty. As I figured, there was no unusual movement on the polygraph machine.
Okay, that's good.
That was the last one. You sure your machine's hooked up properly, Doc?
Yeah, it's hooked up right.
Well, maybe one of your leaves was having a hard time remembering.
Hey, what's going on? I saw the lights.
Nothing, just a little experiment.
Russ.
So, you guys get any leads yet on who murdered my uncle?
Yeah, actually we did. A real good one. See, a witness just turned up.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I didn't know there were any witnesses.
Yeah, there was a witness. And he just identified you as the killer.
That's crazy.
Why'd you do it, Steve?
Oh, where are you going, Steve?
I didn't kill my uncle.
See, I think you did.
After 2 hours of questioning, Steve Saito finally broke down and confessed to the murder of his uncle. His motive? An inheritance he didn't want to wait for. After he confessed, he asked me who the witness was. I told him I was sure he knew him. In fact, he probably even watered him a few times.
Could this story be true? Can a plant really identify a murderer? Actual studies have shown that plants and flowers respond to outside stimuli. They even grow faster when they're talked to and treated with love. Is this story of the flower jury carry the bouquet of truth? Or is it just another blooming lie?
We'll find out if this story is true or false at the end of our show. Next, an escape artist is trapped in an icy tomb on Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction.
Nobody has ever captured the imagination of the American public like Harry Houdini. Even with the modern, spectacular heirs to the throne, many still consider Houdini the greatest escape artist of all time. Of course, in his own day, Houdini had his imitators and competitors, but the only ones who came close were Leonard and Philip Kirby. As we join their story, they're so sure of themselves, they claim they can escape from anything, including their fate. The first time Frederick Raines saw the Kirby brothers perform, he knew they had something only the great ones possess. The fact was, Frederick had always dreamed of discovering an act that could achieve the same greatness as his idol, master of escape, Harry Houdini. But he never expected it to be two Houdinis. Frederick took the Kirby brothers under his wing, becoming both their mentor and manager. Unfortunately, he was only able to get the brothers sporadic bookings. All the public wanted was to see Houdini, who in 1925 was at the pinnacle of his success. In spite of all that, word was getting out that the Kirby brothers could escape from anything, and no one could figure out the secrets of their death-defying stunts.
Where's my brother? I'm right here, Leonard.
While the brothers' abilities were truly amazing, there was a dark rumor surrounding them. It was said that they had a curse on their heads, put there by a gypsy from a little-known town in East Europe. As punishment for stealing the gypsy's secrets, one of the brothers would die while performing an escape.
Houdini this, Houdini that. I'm so sick of the great Houdini.
Calm down, Leonard.
I won't calm down. He's holding us back.
He's a great artist, Leonard. He's earned his acclaim.
What are you saying? That we're not as good?
Of course not. Would I be here if I believed that?
Buried alive. I mean, we can do this trick. We could do it faster and better.
Leonard, what's the point? If we just keep duplicating Houdini's tricks, we'll never get out of his shadow.
Philip's right. We have to come up with something different. Something more dazzling than being buried alive.
Then that's what we'll do. We'll show everyone, including Harry Houdini, that we're the greatest escape artists in the world.
It took the Kirby brothers less than a week to come up with a trick that would surpass Houdini's buried alive. Philip was to be entombed in a coffin of ice for 24 hours.
Leonard, I thought I was fine with this, but now that I see the ice, I don't know.
Frederick, it's all been worked through.
It just seems so dangerous.
That's the point, Frederick. It has to seem dangerous or it won't entertain the audience.
Well, what if something goes wrong?
It won't. Look, I'll be standing vigil for the entire 24 hours. If I see even the slightest problem, I'll release Philip immediately.
I don't know.
It's that ridiculous curse, isn't it? That one of us will die during an escape?
I'm just...
I mean, you don't believe in that, do you?
I'm just worried about you boys.
I won't die in there, Frederick. I promise you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are witnessing something that has never been attempted before. Not even the great Houdini himself could have imagined it. Welcome to Frozen Alive. My brother, will remain entombed inside this frozen casket for the next 24 hours. Go about your business. But I guarantee that every time you return, my brother will still be inside this coffin of ice, frozen alive.
The first few hours passed quickly, and Philip seemed to be doing fine. There was no evidence of the curse. With only 2 hours left, the Kirby brothers were about to make history. And then, something went terribly wrong.
Help me. Help me. Are you all right? Help me. What is it? Help me. We have to get her out. What's wrong? It's the curse. He's gonna die in there.
All right.
How did we do?
22 hours. Are you all right?
I'll be fine. You see, Frederick, I didn't die. There's no curse. Oh. Leonard!
To Philip's shock, his brother Leonard was dead. An autopsy was performed, but no absolute cause of death was found. Some suspected it was his heart, but Leonard Kirby was in perfect health and only 23 years old. After Leonard Kirby's death, his brother Philip retired. Houdini himself died a year later from a burst appendix. But were the Kirby brothers really cursed, or was the threat of the curse enough to make Leonard's heart stop from fear, causing a tragic, self-fulfilling prophecy? Do you believe this story really happened, or is it just an escape from reality?
We'll find out if this story is true or false at the end of our show. Next, an ex-con's life is changed by an old bicycle on Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction.
Who can explain the mystery of music? How can a genius like Beethoven create masterpieces though deaf? And how could Mozart create full classical compositions at the age of 5? And what about today's child prodigies? Children who can sit down at the piano for the first time and play perfectly. Nathaniel Bourne is a musical genius. Since he was a child, he could captivate audiences with his musical gift. But can a gift be taken back? Nathaniel Bourne is starting to think so, and the thought is striking a desperate chord.
I was one of the most successful concert pianists in the world. Everyone knew the name Nathaniel Bourne. I made my debut when I was only 11 at Carnegie Hall with the New York Philharmonic under Leonard Bernstein. I played Chopin's Piano Concerto No. 1 in E minor. It brought tears to Bernstein's eyes. The next 22 years of my life were like a dream. I sold millions of records and played in all the great concert halls. And then something terrible happened. While playing my signature Chopin concerto, I became frozen. It was an artist's greatest nightmare. Somehow I had developed a creative block and could not play.
You shouldn't be sitting outside in the rain like this, Nathaniel. You'll get sick.
Doesn't matter.
Don't be like that. Let's go inside where it's warm. I've built a fire.
I tried psychiatrists, hypnotists, everything I could think of. Nothing worked. Then my wife Helena brought us back to Boston, where I grew up. She hoped this might touch things that would unblock me. But it just got worse.
Gregory canceled 2 more months of concert dates. I'm not scheduled to play again for the rest of the year. I might as well tell him to cancel next year, too.
Why don't you call Martin Schiller?
Martin Schiller? Why?
He was your first teacher, and you always spoke so fondly of him. Perhaps you could help.
Martin. Martin was quite a character. I haven't seen him in years. I think the last time was at Lincoln Center.
Yes, I remember. He wore a red bow tie with a tuxedo.
You know, Martin first started teaching me when I was 5 years old. Martin always came exactly at 5 o'clock on Saturday. He'd bring a piece of chocolate, and he'd tell me, as soon as the lesson is over, you may have the chocolate. I honestly believe I used to play better just knowing that piece of chocolate was waiting for me.
He must have been a wonderful teacher.
He was.
I took Helena's advice and called Martin Schiller. I set our visit for 5 o'clock on Saturday. I suddenly wanted very much to see him again.
Nathaniel! Martin! Do come in. Right on time.
Of course. A punctual man is a respectful man.
Martin, good to see you. How have you been?
I could complain, but what would be the point? People hate complainers.
You haven't changed a bit.
Let's get to work. Oh. This piano is a far cry from the upright I used to teach you on. As soon as our lesson is finished, you may have this chocolate.
I told you about my problem.
Sit. Do you remember how we used to play together?
I do.
Play?
Even though it was just simple scales, something inside me was making it impossible.
I'm sorry, Martin. I can't.
Nonsense. The chocolate is waiting for you. Give me your hands.
There was an energy coming from Martin's hands that I felt throughout my entire body.
Now.
I felt like his hands were still there, guiding me, but I was on my own. It was impossible to measure the sense of gratitude I was feeling for Martin. What happened next was totally unexpected.
Hello. Hello, Mr. Bourne? Yes. We've never met. I'm Martin Schiller's son, Stefan.
Ah, you just missed your father. He left moments ago.
That's impossible. I came over to tell you why he missed his appointment with you. My father passed away in his sleep last night.
From that day forward, Nathaniel Bourne resumed his stature as one of the world's great pianists. But was it really the spirit of Martin Schiller that visited Nathaniel that day? Or did the entire incident exist only in Nathaniel's mind? But then, how do you explain the chocolate? Wasn't that proof of Martin Schiller's visit? Does this story play out as a composition of harmonious truth? Or have we hit a false note?
Next, you'll find out which of our stories are fact and which are fiction when Beyond Belief returns.
Now let's look back at tonight's stories and find out which ones are inspired by actual events and which ones are totally false. What about the woman whose family and very life were saved by a special candle?
I was too weak to get up. I thought I would die. But then, the fire went out all by itself.
If you thought this story was based on a real-life occurrence, you're right. A similar story happened to a woman in the East in the early 80s. How about the flower that caught a murderer?
Hey, what's going on? I saw the lights.
Nothing, just a little experiment.
Russ. So, you guys get any leads yet on who murdered my uncle?
This one has to be false, right? Wrong. Our research shows a similar incident happened in the New York area in the late 70s. What about the escape artists who couldn't escape their terrible curse?
I'll be standing vigil for the entire 24 hours. If I see even the slightest problem, I'll release Philip immediately.
I don't know.
It's that ridiculous curse, isn't it? That one of us will die during an escape? I mean, you don't believe in that, do you?
I'm just worried about you boys.
I won't die in there, Frederick. I promise you.
If you thought this one was phony, you're right. It never happened. Let's have one more look at the story of the music teacher who returned from beyond to inspire his prize pupil.
Give me your hands.
There was an energy coming from Martin's hands that I felt throughout my entire body.
Now.
I felt like his hands were still there, guiding me, but I was on my own.
Did a similar story to this one take place? Perhaps. But this one has been made up. Truth and fiction. They often seem to be two sides of the same coin. And when that coin is spun, is the result fate, luck, or a combination of the two? Is it possible to determine the fake from the real, or are we dealing in a realm that is truly beyond belief? I'm Jonathan Frakes.
The true stories on tonight's show were based upon first-hand research by author Robert Trelans. This is Campbell Lane.